You're listening to the Media Man Dan podcast, your place for music, movies, news, reviews, and interviews. Welcome to the show. Get ready to rock. Let's rock!
All right, you monster. Die on the battlefield and serve as my catalyst so that I may become even more powerful and soar to new heights!
What the fuck, Peter?
I am the man with the sawtooth swords, mountain god on my head of the board. I am the man with the sawtooth swords. I am the man, I am the man, I am the man with the sawtooth swords. I am the slayer of demons and hordes. I am the cleaver of limbs, and I am the breaker of horns.
What's up, guys? Welcome to the Media Man Dan podcast. Today, I have an awesome guest with me, Mr. Plague Beast, down in Texas, also known as Jake or Jacob. How are you doing today, my friend?
Man, I'm doing great. How are you?
I'm doing excellent. It is a great day in Chicagoland. We have all of the snow gone now. It's just rain, and I'm fine with rain because I can drive through it without having to clear it off in the morning.
Yeah, you got windshield wipers, so I mean, it's definitely faster.
Definitely. So basically, I want to know, how is your year going so far? We're almost 3 months in. You've been dropping single after single. You feel really confident about the next project, I'm hoping, at this point.
Definitely. So the year's been awesome. I've played a couple shows already, and I have already 3 shows booked for March, and I just confirmed another one for April in Galveston, which is pretty cool. I haven't played Galveston yet. So got that going. I'm releasing a single every Friday. This Friday might be different. The mix is taking a little bit longer, but we'll see how it goes. If I can't release a full single, I'm planning to do like a vocal cover to take its place. All just kind of leading up and building hype for an EP I have releasing in May.
Oh, hell yeah. That was going to be one of my questions was, do we have an album coming soon? And you're talking about just a couple months away.
Just a couple months away. Yeah, I have a few more collabs to come out in March. It's like back to back to back collabs. And then starting in April, we should be able to put out some of the singles from that. I don't want to, it's going to be like 6 songs, so I can't like drop all of them, but it's going to be like, like a little bit of them, 3 of them or something, half of it probably.
Absolutely. Well, you're talking about collabs right now. I want to talk about the new one here that you had with Polarities, Boy Wander. You guys used a like heavy riff to your advantage. You still rapped on this one, but this one was a focus on the rock elements. Are you planning on using rock elements a lot more moving forward?
Oh, most definitely. It's funny that you mentioned that. So Ken, which is Boy Wander, he messaged me and was like, "Hey, do you want to write a song together?" I'm like, "Absolutely." I was a fan of his. He kind of messaged me after my song Bloodhound Step with Notions came out. He's like, "Hey, I'm a fan, whatever." We kind of developed a friendship there. So toward the end of last year, we started talking. It's like, I have a beat I think you would do great on. I was like, okay. So he sent me that, and it was just so riff driven. I'm like, this is incredible. I got something just for this. So definitely want to envelop more stuff like that. He and I are working on some more stuff, and there's going to be things in that same nature happening as well.
Excellent. And with that rock sound that I was listening to from you here, I think that Fuzzy Dysfunction, is that the name?
Yes, sir.
He had a really cool like chorus on Rampage.
Yeah. So Fuzzy Dysfunction is a band from Georgia. I did a podcast for a little bit. I actually met them on TikTok, and we kind of developed a friendship, and they were like, "Hey, you should have us on your podcast." And I'm like, "Hey, that's dope." That was actually they just released their album on the 24th of this month, and I was actually unintentionally the 1-year anniversary of when I had them on my podcast. But yeah, same kind of thing. I was like, we should do a song together. So they were finishing up their EP, and this was kind of just a single off to the side, just to work with friends. And it just came together so well. It's so different. It's very old school sounding. It sounds like old new metal, really, with the way the mix and everything was done. But it sounds awesome because it's still my style is more modern than what was played. So it's just this really nice contrast.
That's awesome. By the way, let's talk about your podcast here. You said you've been going for about a year on that. What intrigued you to join the podcast game or start a podcast for yourself?
So it's always just about getting your name and face in front of people. For me, anyway. I've done a couple of them. I've done some with friends where we just kind of talk. I've done some just about my life and like lessons that I've learned. And I haven't stayed updated with the podcast, but what it was called, I might pick it up again in the future. That door is always open. What it was called is One More Song, basically about concert experiences, just how music makes people feel, talking with bands, showcasing local artists and just people I'm friends with when talking about a certain topic. So that's really what it was about. And I don't know, it's not like there wasn't an audience for it. I didn't stay consistent with it. And around the same time I was doing that, I was getting ready to have a kid. And also I was like, okay, I need to focus on making music. So that just kind of went to the back burner for the moment.
Absolutely. Priorities, family first. We are all going to be challenged at some point in our life. How old is your kid?
Uh, 7.5 months old, 8 months old in like 2 weeks.
So wonderful. Congratulations.
Thank you.
You're very welcome. And that's one of the things that I talked about on my Christian Plains interview is like the one goal that I would have in my life is just to be a father one day and to know that I did it right. That's the other thing, because challenges life always brings to you are hard to overcome. So I'm looking forward to that. But speaking of your like history as a artist, podcaster, all of that, I want to know where the name Plague Beast came from.
So I did an interview a couple months ago, and I always get asked that question because everyone loves the name. It's a fucking sick ass name. The
Yes.
story behind it is not so cool, but it's okay. So it's actually my PlayStation gamer tag.
Oh,
So after COVID happened, I wanted to change my gamer tag. Like they updated it on PlayStation, like you could change your thing. I had the same one for years, and it was what it was before was like some words from the dragon language in Skyrim. When I made it, I was really into Skyrim, and I made it after COVID happened, and I was playing Fallout 76 with my clan, and we were all like changing our names. So I was like, I don't know, man, like something like COVID related would be cool. Like, what about Plague Beast? And that just kind of that stuck. It's like, yeah, that's fucking sick, dude. And so I changed it, and yeah, I before I was that. I did spoken word music under River of the same name, which it's also not that cool of a story, but I'll tell it anyway. It's very long-winded for a one-man project, which is one of the reasons why it was changed.
yeah.
My last name is Hudson. My great so on great grandfather was Henry Hudson, who discovered the Hudson River. So, right, like it's cool,
Dude,
like
that's amazing.
yeah,
My
it's
family's
cool.
from like Poland, so like there's nothing going on in the United States of America that, as far as I know, they've done.
Yeah. So like it was cool for a while. I was when I started doing spoken word, I had discovered bands like Hotel Books, Being as an Ocean, a lot of Spewed, a lot like Bird. So I was really into post-hardcore and like emo whiny stuff. And that was more like that style. And that name fit that style really well, but also a really long name for a solo project.
Yeah, definitely. But it worked for the time being.
Yeah.
When you got into the Plague Beast mode, and Beast mode just comes to mind as well. That's like the most
Hey,
badass thing, Plague Beast mode. So
Plague Beast
my
mode,
my
let's
first
go.
thought when you said that it was going to be the PlayStation gamer tag, I thought that was a default that they gave you when you were like, "Oh,
Oh,
I have to update mine," and they're like Plague Beast 69 or something. And you're like,
that would have been awesome.
"That's
No,
it."
it was an option between two things. I'd come up with two different things. It was either like something like plague related, coronavirus related, just because it was topical. I was also watching a lot of My Hero Academia at the time, and my favorite,
Oh,
so good. My favorite character from that show is Sun Eater. Our clan was BG, which stood for Boink Gang. So it was BG underscore. It was either going to be Plague Beast or Sun Eater, but Plague Beast sounded cooler.
that explains the anime intro that was on one of the tracks I was going to talk about.
Yes.
Sawtooth has
Yes.
a really cool epic intro. What anime was that one from?
Demon Slayer.
Demon Slayer.
Yes.
Sick.
So the character talking, I'm sure you've seen him, Inosuke. He's the guy that wears the boar head. And he has like it's Sawtooth that's named after his swords. He in Demon Slayer, like every Demon Slayer gets their own set of swords, and he actually breaks his with rocks to make them like jagged. And so he does a move called Palisade Bite, and he gets these swords like this, and they have these jagged edges on them. And what he'll do to cut off demon heads is just kind of pull them to the side and cut through the head at both ends.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah, it's awesome.
And it's a sawtooth sword, so it's like
Sword,
jagged
right.
edges. That's sick.
Right.
I could say I have not seen much anime. I've seen the first 2 seasons of My Hero. I have seen a bit of like Samurai Jack back
Okay.
on like Toonami, you know. But yeah, I didn't get much into it. But My Hero has definitely been the first one and my favorite because I love the music in it. Like
Oh my gosh, yes.
the
it's
intro
incredible.
song, the music in the background, everything with All Might. Oh, it's so cool.
Yes, dude.
And yeah, I will be paying attention more for the characters, and I will be watching Demon Slayer as well.
Yes, absolutely. It's absolutely incredible. Going back to what you said about the music in My Hero Academia, there are plenty of artists that do English covers of the Japanese songs, like for the intros and stuff. But
Nate
my
wants to
favorite,
battle.
Nate Wants to Battle. Yeah,
That's
you
what's
already
up,
know.
man.
You already know, dude. I love that guy.
Dude, I got obsessed with The Day Has Come or whatever it's called.
Yes.
Like that song for me, I was like, this sounds so familiar, but it's still something completely new. And I love that there's like verses and everything. And I like that even with the translation that Nate did, it still worked in the exact same timing as the Japanese version.
Right.
You know, that
He's
doesn't work for all
incredible.
things. So
Right.
yeah, very talented. Sorry for cutting you off there. I guess that I read your mind on that one.
No, you're totally good. It makes me feel better that you did know who it was, because there's plenty of artists that do it. It's usually women, because a lot of the anime intros will be women singing.
Yeah.
So having Nate do it for whatever, it just, I don't know, it's different. And the way he does it, the production and everything behind it, and his translation, like you said, it always fits in the timing. It always just sounds so good.
Absolutely. It sounds exactly the same as the original.
Right, exactly.
With better production.
Right, yeah.
He uses a lot of depth in the background. He makes it, like I always say this, I love the boom. I love the boom that I get from great production. I always check it out in the car. The car test has to work with every single song. And speaking of songs, speaking of boom, speaking of everything, we were talking before we started this interview about your first song ever, blasting bass, blasting vocals. This was you said your first time putting out music as the name Plague Beast. How did it feel to get that first single out?
So it was actually still as River of the same name, and I would change it later. So I had taken a hiatus from music for quite a while. I wasn't really getting anywhere with it. Spoken word's much easier to produce. So while the production wasn't nearly as bad as Digital Darkness, just because there was a lot less layering, I still wasn't really getting anywhere with it. So I was just frustrated. I was over it, whatever. The summer beforehand, I had done a few recordings, and I had released them, and they were okay. I didn't promote them. I didn't really do shit with them. I just felt like it was something I had to do. And then basically just a lot of shit happened. I got angry with life. And when I'm angry, I write. So I had released a song that summer, and my friend referred me to like one of those people that will review your songs and maybe put it on a playlist if they like it or whatever for like $15 or whatever. It's basically paid a playlist, right?
Oh so my gosh, $15 only?
Right, it wasn't like that bad, but still.
Like, I mean, like, I know it's like a cheap way to get on, but at the same time, that's a great price.
Right. So totally unethical. It's very wrong. Don't do that. But I did it, right? I was just like, let's see if this will work for me. So I had made a what I called a hardcore song. It was just another song that wasn't mixed well at all, with harsh vocals, whatever. I was just trying to get content out, and I paid for them to review it. And they were like, oh, like I really like the lyrics and like the effects you use are good, but like the mix is just terrible. And so it got submitted to like 4 or 5 different playlist people, and they all said no. And so Digital Darkness was kind of born from that. I was like, well, fuck it, let's try again. And I'm going to do like rap shit. Like when I was a kid, there was a Christian Christian music video channel on like the Christian network. It was called JCTV, and they would have rappers like Lecrae and Tripley, and then like late at night they would have like metal bands. So growing up, I listened to a lot of Christian rap music. So I had been rapping like all my life pretty much since I was a kid. I was like, well, let's try writing some rap shit again, and it did that. And one of the lines in that song that I still love, even though the mix is trash, I still play this song, just not with I don't have my vocals in the backing track. I just have the track, so it's a little bit nicer live, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
But one of the lyrics in that song is, "It doesn't matter if I'm not on your playlist. Call me Puddle of Mud because I'm gonna be famous." So that was just kind of a shot at them.
That's it. That's it. Speaking of Puddle of Mud, did you see their Nirvana cover?
Yes, horrible, absolutely horrible.
It was agonizing to watch.
And the thing is, if you look at his face, it looks like he thinks he's really doing something. Like he's like, yeah, this is the best I've ever sounded. Like I'm in the pocket, I'm good to go. And you're just looking in horror, like, what is happening?
I've had moments where I would make like a cover. I was doing covers before I started doing reactions and stuff like that. But I had like a couple of times where I was trying to do Beartooth's Hated. And there was moments where I couldn't hit the notes because I had screamed so much at that point. So I was like, okay, well, this is not going out. And I was like, that's exactly what he did, but he did it live. He had prepared beforehand, probably over prepared. And so he couldn't hit the notes. And so, yeah, he was struggling with every single bone in his body to make sure that he could even attempt to hit the right note. But yeah.
Yep.
It was crazy. It was tragic, and it was absolutely memed to death. Hilarious for the metal community.
Yes,
but yeah, that's a great lyric though, with Puddle of Mud included. I like that you have your own story that you have behind every song, and I'm definitely going to be talking about your story as we continue going forward. The main question I have for you right now are, what are your biggest influences? You've mentioned some Christian rappers. You've mentioned that you love rock music and that you'd like to do a lot more in the future. What like really sparked your interest to be a performer or a musician in general?
Man, metalcore and hardcore bands, there's nothing that quite solidifies the want to perform, like going to see Beartooth, for instance. I saw Beartooth on their first US headliner play to 192 cap room. It was called Walters. It's little shitty hole in the wall venue in Houston. Stage was maybe 2 feet off the ground, but it was home. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So it was Beartooth, Vanna, this band, also the name of my daughter. Yeah, Siler, Alive Like Me, and another like local band from Houston. Sirens and Sailors was also on that show, but just that was like the first show my parents like let me go to by myself. Like my dad dropped me off and then just went and did something, and just seeing that, like being like having a mic shoved in my face. Like Vanna played that show, I knew like one of their songs and they shoved the fucking mic in my face like, sing this shit. Incredible, nothing like it. Beartooth covered Blitzkrieg Bop by the Ramones.
My gosh,
started fucking pulling kids up on stage. There were like 60 kids on this tiny ass stage, dude. It's no more than like 6 feet wide, 2 feet off the ground.
Yeah, just
enough to hold a drum set, a couple guitarists, and a singer, you know, pulling everyone up on stage they could fit on there. So shows like that. And then I went to plenty of Christian rap shows too. Lecrae is an excellent performer. I will say he can't match all of his older material live. Which, I mean, that just kind of happens. There are some things that are just studio tracks, and that's fine. But I went to plenty of Christian rap shows, plenty of secular metal shows, Christian metal shows, whatever. Bands like Beartooth, bands like Vanna, Lecrae. Of course, I love Linkin Park. Huge, huge influence for me. Later on, I got into Run the Jewels. They're a big influence on my rap style as well.
Yep. I can hear some of that in there.
Yeah. And more recently, in the last few years, I found bands like Notions, which I'm so lucky to have become friends with them and have a few songs with them. I'm playing a show with them in like 3 weeks at the bar right by my house. And Dropout Kings, Attila, all that kind of shit. It blends it so well. And it's just something I wanted to be a part of for so long. I've tried to be in bands and stuff before, but you either get with a group of people and all of your visions and points at life you're in are different, or
Mhm.
you're the only one really doing anything, and it just gets frustrating. So I was like, well, fuck it, I'll do it on my own.
That's the best for you though, because you know
Right.
exactly how you want to shape your future. And if the people that were along with you for the ride aren't going to be fully committed to your vision, like you said, you guys each have your own visions and they're going to collide with each other. It's best that, yeah, you're going to be doing your own thing. Also, you have the talent. I'm going to say this right
Yeah.
now, man. I gave you a high score of a 5 out of 5. I mean, I'm telling you, I heard the aggression in your voice and I was like, I don't even care if this isn't metal. This man is absolutely confident about everything that he's saying. Your enunciation is insanely good. It reminds me of a couple of rappers. I could definitely say, what was the main one that I was thinking of? I was thinking Prozac for a little bit. Prozac, Tech Nine's artist that he
Oh
signed.
yeah, yeah, yeah.
Yeah, I heard a bit of Prozac, and then there was another one. I would usually have this prepared ahead of time. I bet on this one.
It's okay. You look for it, and I'm just going to be looking at you on camera, even though I'm not actually looking at you. But for the purpose of the interview, I'm looking at you intently, staring at you.
Yeah. Oh, let's see. E40.
Oh, okay.
Yeah,
That's so funny. That's
because
cool.
E40 has, the over enunciation of every single word. You never miss what he's saying.
Never miss it.
That's exactly how I felt about yours, but it was more like an intense E40. And I was like, yeah, yeah, this is good. And I heard all of those new singles, man, and they were fire, absolute fire, one by one. I was like, he's got the old bass, like the booming bass that you had on your first track. That's there. And it comes to 2 tracks on the newer stuff as well. And then you have the other songs, like I said, with rock influence on there, with great choruses, and oh, the lyrical value that you have. You did do a little lyrical, spiritual miracle kind of thing at one point, and I was like, I noticed that simple wordplay, but I'm okay with it because it works extremely well with this beat. And it wasn't anything where you're like throwing it at
Right.
at full speed like Ronnie Radke in the most recent Falling in Reverse song or anything like that. So it was easy to understand and easy to comprehend. And anybody that wants to get into like a new artist right now that you're like, man, I feel like all the rap is the same. I think Plague Beast is probably a great artist for you to start out with. This dude's gonna blow your mind. He's gonna get better as he goes on, and I'm gonna continue asking him more questions. I want to talk about your love for Linkin Park. You said we have a song cover from you, IOU, and that is one of the best songs on Post Traumatic. Why did you choose that song specifically?
Man, look at you doing your research and knowing shit, man. That's so good. That's such a compliment as an artist to have someone look that deep into you. I feel like I'm on Hot Ones because Sean always asks the guys like something they never would have thought of, like explain this Instagram photo, and it's from like 7 years ago. Like, that's how I feel right now. So yeah, man, Linkin Park was obviously a huge deal for me. Rap and rock, even after people really started falling off. Like Minutes to Midnight was a huge divide for Linkin Park fans. Are like, oh fuck this, this isn't Meteora, this isn't Hybrid Theory. It's like, I still like it though. You know, you get the fucking What I've Done as the closer for Transformers the movie, dog.
Yes,
What the fuck?
amazing.
Incredible. You get New Divide for Transformers 2, Iridescent, Transformers 3. Like, they just keep going. And some of their best records, like, it moves on. Like, it's not just Meteora and Hybrid Theory. I love The Hunting Party, and I love Living Things, which is all about like people, which is why it's called Living Things. So I followed their discography on. I didn't just give up at Minutes to Midnight. So when Chester died, for everyone who listened to Linkin Park, I mean, that was a huge hit, but it hit me personally. Like, sometimes I just think like, fuck, man, I'll never get to see Chester perform. I never got to see Linkin Park. So when Mike dropped Post Traumatic, he did 3 or 4 songs at first and then made it into a full length. It just, every single thing was like a punch in the gut. Like, I felt like I was going through it with Mike. And then you get to a point where he's in like IOU, and it's more like, fuck everyone trying to come up and say like, oh, okay, well, what about me? Like, what if I was the vocalist? And what if you did this with me and joined my band instead? Is like, no, like, fuck all y'all. And I felt like that in my life before. Like, I'll go through a low point, or I'll achieve something, and everyone just comes out of the woodwork to give their opinion or try to get something from you. So that's really why I covered it. It was like, fuck you, IOU, dude. That's it.
Dude, that is the most perfect explanation of what I wanted to hear about why you chose that song and why you chose to use Mike Shinoda's most recent work besides his instrumental albums. By the way, thank you for that compliment on the research stuff. I know Linkin Park stuff way too well. I could say that like it's in the back of my mind at all times. Like if you told me like Dan, what did Mike Shinoda get you into? Grandson. He has one song with Grandson, and that got me into Grandson.
Yup. That's a
And
banger
so
too, dog.
yeah, it worked out really well. Same with the guys that were on So Say Goodbye and Hit the Road. Goodbye.
Good goodbye. Stormzy, Pusha T and
Yeah.
Stormzy.
Stormzy and yeah. Oh my gosh, dude, that was sick. I loved after, of course, the insanely tragic passing of Chester. And like you said, it is so hard for anybody in your position, especially those people that had the tickets ready right
Right.
around the time that they were supposed to be showing up there. And I talked about this on my stream before. I've talked about this many times on Instagram. Chester was a huge influence on my vocal style when it comes to like making rock music or anything like that. If I wanted to be in a band, I would probably shape my vowels to be as close to Chester as possible. And
Right.
sometimes I do really well, but his higher notes, very challenging, and his scream, insanely hard to do.
He was a monster, dude. Absolute vocal monster. You look at his screams in any of his songs, but he has some really long, prolonged screams in No More Sorrow is probably the
Yes.
most memorable one.
I'm going to
Such a
correct you.
shame.
I'm going to correct you.
Oh,
It's given up.
no, you're right. Yeah, giving up. Yeah.
It's okay. No More Sorrow is also incredibly screamy. So both of them minutes to midnight.
I guess the whole thing is just more screaming. You're right. I've given up. Yeah, you're right.
Yeah.
Yeah. Both incredible songs. Some of my favorite Linkin Park songs.
Yeah.
And,
It's so
and people
good.
who just bailed after Meteora didn't get that.
Absolutely.
Such
And
a
that's the
shame.
thing. That's the thing about the sound of an artist. And this is for any artist that I talk to these days. I love hearing the progression. A lot of artists are like, I don't know if I should have done that because it seems like it's not what my crowd would want to hear, not what they would expect. Should I really try this? My friend most recently that I am going to be interviewing, he did screams on his most recent album. You heard that in the story on Instagram. And I was very impressed. I was so happy. And he was just like, I don't know if they're good enough. I'm like, dude, who gives a shit? You're
Yeah.
trying something new. All these other artists, they stick to one thing for quite a long time and it gets old real fast because they're constantly pushing out the same product, which is good for the fan base that you have. But if you don't try new things, if you don't take risks, how are you ever going to improve? How are you ever going to say, look at what I changed into? Look
Right.
at how I morphed. I'm going to go with a Power Ranger reference, morphed into the best version of me, the best version of my music. And that's like something that I'm hearing from you right now as well. With all of these new singles, I just get more and more hype for what this EP is going to give me. It gives me more of an overall look at your career on how it's going to be in the future because I listen to so much music all the time and I'm always like, I need somebody that's going to be fresh out there, that's not afraid to take a chance and also is genuinely themselves on every single song, and you never take anything away. Like you're consistently angry, and I love that.
All
And
the
you
time.
have like you said, you had the best time when you're angry. You write, and that's probably the most important thing. I'm going to connect it all the way back to Linkin Park here. Therapeutic writing, therapeutic performing, therapeutic delivery. Chester had it down to get through all of his trauma with anything that you've been through in your life, with all of that anger that you put in. It shows how much passion you have. The passion reigns through everything. So it doesn't matter if you're swearing, it doesn't matter if you're screaming, you're just enjoying it because you're venting out all
Right.
of that, built up pain and putting it out there for everybody to understand, hear, and hopefully feel the story that you're trying to tell. My next question for you: are you planning on having an emotional song, like a ballad or something of that sort in the future?
Oh, absolutely. There's one recorded for the EP, actually. I'm glad you asked that. So I wanted to do something different, and I was kind of looking at how records and EPs are received. So now the thing is, your songs need to be around the 2 minute mark. These people's attention spans are shit. It doesn't always have to be that way. And if you look at like top 40, a lot of their songs aren't around the 2 minute mark. They're longer. They still follow their own formulaic pattern. But in the underground trap scene for the moment, that's about what we're at, because usually on Friday, like, it's a packed out release day. There's all kinds of shit. So if you're just kind of going on and on, like, they might just go on to the next thing.
Yeah.
So that's one thing you have to keep in mind when you're prepping to release an album or an EP. You need to think about where those songs are going to lie on your track listing and how you release them. If someone is going to take the time to listen to your EP or album, they most likely will not go all the way through unless they are a very devoted fan. So the EP. Oh, yes, sir.
That's me.
Oh, I thought you were raising your hand. Like, I have a question. I want to interject.
yeah. Teacher, I have a question.
Like, teacher, hang on. So yeah, they're not going to really go all the way through. This is typically more so for full lengths than EPs, because EPs are designed to play over and over again, pretty much. So this is a 6-song EP. So I had to think about where a soft song was going to be, how my intro needed to be, and I will leak it on this podcast. The first song on the EP is going to be a remastered, actually correctly done version of Digital Darkness.
Ooh.
Yeah, so that's going to be the first one, because as of now, like, it only has like 100 plays on Spotify. Like, it's not like that many people have heard it. People gave up on that shit immediately.
109
compared to everything else.
109 today.
Yeah, there you go.
I added to that.
It's like, let me hear the too loud bass again real quick. So yeah, you have to think about where that is, and I'm thinking and looking at all these songs, like, people will waste a slot with an intro or like a minute instrumental or whatever. Not necessarily waste a slot, but in my opinion, I always just skip those.
Yeah.
So it's just filler. But I do have an emotional song. It's called The World That Never Was, themed after Kingdom Hearts. I don't know if you ever played that game.
I have played the second game, but I don't know if it's from the first one or the second one.
It's from the second one. So I think it's the last world you go to. The World That Never Was is a nobody of a world that lost its heart. So anytime a heartless is created, a nobody is also created. Someone loses their heart, they lose their being. So it's like a double meaning. It's like a world that never was. Basically, it's talking about, the tagline in the song is, and I guess what you would call the chorus is, if possibilities don't become realities, it doesn't matter. I keep the same mentality. And so doesn't matter if I get offered a show and it doesn't actually happen. It doesn't matter if there's this tour and I don't get selected for it or whatever. It's like, I just got to keep pushing.
Dude, that is so deep.
Thank you.
I love it. I love that you're connecting things that you're like, you grow up with. Some people, they just throw it into like a random generator of like, what are the topics that everybody wants to hear about right now? And
Right.
You're like the third artist that I've talked to where they take something that they love, which is a video game. Chris also does that. My friend Eddie does that as well. And they remaster it to make it like more rocky, more metal, but it's just because they have the love for the soundtrack. And
Right.
so you have that exact same feeling. I'm excited to hear what your song is going to translate, like what types of storytelling you're going to use for that specific track to make sure that you are portraying your story as opposed to just whatever Kingdom Hearts was talking about.
Right. Exactly.
And with Kingdom Hearts, I'm going to say I never finished the second game, and now I want to because it sounds exciting.
No, it's still one of my favorite games of all time. Like, people ask me best 10 video games of all time, it's up there. But the last few hours especially is just crazy. They introduced Roxas and his story in that game to people who didn't play like the game that came out on Game Boy or whatever. And I just got so connected with that character. It was the first Kingdom Hearts game that I played, and then seeing like everything that happens with his story, because he is like a secondary protagonist compared to Sora, which is the main protagonist. So seeing everything that happens with him and like the war between light and darkness and stuff, it gets you in your feelings. It's just so good.
Absolutely, man. What was your first experience with Kingdom Hearts like? Were you confused by the game adding anime to Disney, or were you mind blown like all of the people in the geeky community that I missed out on because I wasn't cool enough? I was too busy watching Power Rangers.
Hey, Power Rangers is awesome. Don't let anyone knock you on that. There are some seasons that are just goofy, but the older seasons, Time Force, Dino Thunder, there's some classics there other than Mighty Morphin. It's not just the first two seasons.
Oh, but, hell yeah. You definitely get me.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. So Kingdom Hearts, I was actually this was probably 2005, 2006. I was actually sick on like spring break or fall break, some break from school. And my mom was like, well, let's go get you a video game so you have something to do if you're just going to be stuck inside. And so we saw like the Final Fantasy character, the Final Fantasy-esque characters on the box, and Mickey Mouse, and he had a sword, as I called it, which I guess it is, but whatever. It's like, well, let's buy this. So I did that, and then I just got kind of engrossed. I started with 2. So like I said, you go through this like 2-hour intro with Roxas, and he's not even the main character of the game. So the game gets you so attached to this character, you don't even see or hear anything about for a while. So it's kind of crazy, but I just kind of grew to love the game, and then ended up going backwards, playing the game on Game Boy, playing the first game, of course, playing 3 came out years and years later, and some of the stuff in between. There's still some titles I have not played, but yeah, confused, enjoyed, wrote songs about, all the above.
Would you say that is your favorite game franchise?
Oh, it's up there. Gosh, that's such a hard question. I think as I am in life now, the Dark Souls series is probably my favorite franchise. Dark Souls, Elden Ring, all that.
The most challenging game is the one that you love.
Oh, absolutely, dude.
Dark Souls.
I remember buying Dark Souls, walking into GameStop in 2012 and wanting to buy Dark Souls like a year after it came out. It was $20. And the cashier was like, "Are you sure you want to buy this?" I was like, "Look, I know what this game is, and I want to see if I can do it." So like, okay, so I bought it. So the first Dark Souls, you get through like the opening area, whatever, you get killed by the first demon, or you kill the first demon, whatever, and then you get dragged to Firelink Shrine. So there's like 2 or 3 different paths down from Firelink Shrine. One doesn't open till later. One, I didn't realize it was there. And 3 is the one where you go and fight skeletons.
Oh.
That was the most obvious path. So I figured this is certainly it. You need holy weapons to actually make skeletons die in Dark Souls. As a new character, you of course don't have holy weapons. Why this is in the starting area, I don't know. I was like, this game must be really hard because they're putting these enemies you can't kill right in front of you. Basically, you hit them with your sword or whatever, and you turn them into, you like knock their bones around, and then they just reform and start chasing you again, right? So there's like items in this graveyard, and I'm like picking it up, and I'm fighting off skeletons. Like, okay, this isn't that hard. And then there's a bigger skeleton. I was like, okay, like let me knock his ass down and get the chest behind him or whatever. Knock him down. It's like, oh, like here's some fucking catacombs. There's just an endless wave of skeletons. I'm like, this is really weird if this is the way I have to go. I spend like probably no less than 4 hours trying to get farther into these catacombs and realizing I just cannot do it. I ended up going online and realizing there's like a staircase a little bit out of the way, the other direction. And you're supposed to go like up from the staircase into like an aqueduct thing. And yeah, I was just hooked ever since.
Amazing. I would have given up. I would have given up, man. Speaking of giving up, we got to talk about Linkin Park again.
Oh, what a segue.
What a segue, huh? So let's talk about your favorite album for your own opinion. It's probably changed over time, right? Because we have that phase where you're like, I want new metal Linkin Park. I want the heavy stuff. I want Chester screaming at me. But now with Chester being gone for 5-6 years now, it's crazy that the time has passed so fast.
That's so wild.
But we are here with a better outlook on everything. We understand One More Light. We understand the direction that the band had. We understand why 10,000 Suns is such an important record, especially for Waiting for the End, especially the lyrics of that song that meant so much more afterwards. What album is now currently your favorite?
So, like you said, of course, it's changed. When I was younger and first heard like Faint, I'm like, oh, give me more of that, And then you hear other things like we talked about, all the songs that were in the Transformers movies. Like everything has its own special quality, and I love every Linkin Park record. There are some songs that I'm like, it's all right. It's not really my thing, but for the most part, pretty much every song is perfect. My favorite record that's probably held the most lasting impact on me is the one from 2012, which is Living Things. I feel like it's a really uncommon answer too, but I remember I was on YouTube one day and I saw the video for Burn It Down, and it was excellent rapping, excellent singing, and it was almost also kind of pop. So it was just a blend of so many different elements. And then actually going to like Target and buying the record, like there's experimental rap on there, there's experimental rock on there, there's some just like ballad stuff on there. And
Yep.
then you go toward the back half of it, and it's just it leaves you wanting more. Like not like, oh my God, like why did it end that way? But it makes you want to start the record over, in my opinion, anyway. So that Living Things has to be my answer.
Absolutely excellent answer. I'm so happy you chose the oddball too. It's usually 10,000 Suns or Living Things that really blows my mind with people. My first experience with Linkin Park and knowing who Linkin Park was of course New Divide from Transformers 2, as we already had discussed.
Right.
But my first video where I personally went out of my way to try to find something from Linkin Park was Lost in the Echo. I saw it on Music Choice.
Ooh, yes.
On my TV. Yeah, it was mind-blowing to me. I was like, there's a story behind this. This is so sad. This is so tragic. The scream is heavy, but it's not too much. At that time, I was so afraid of screams. I did not grow up in metal or anything like that. I grew up with disco, Motown, classic rock, Chicago, Earth, Wind and Fire, Foreigner. Yeah, all of those bands were very different from the heavier stuff.
Very different.
It took years to get into that kind of comfort zone for screaming. But for Chester, little fun fact, Chester said that the last time that they were going to do Hybrid Theory was Hunting Party. And I liked that time. And I really do miss how much that album should have meant to me. Final Masquerade was the last thing I heard the day before he passed away.
Oh my God. Wow.
I was making a CD for my friend at work, and he was like, I like these softer songs that have like emotional meanings. And I'm like, oh, okay. And so I found the acoustic version of that with Mike on it. And I was like, wow, this is such a really good version. I'm so happy I could put this on CD. The next day, Chester's dead.
Wow.
And it was insane to me. I was like, wait, do I know any other Chester? Can't be that Chester. Right. That Chester, he just made a new album. There's no possible way. And it just showed us as fans, like how tragic, even in the best times that your life could be, you just put up this big masquerade in front of people. You're the Final Masquerade. I'm playing on that one right now. Yeah. Right. But you put up that mask and you don't show people what you're truly feeling, because your music does it for you. So let's go all the way back to your sound. You're abrasive, you're aggressive, and you're honest. And I absolutely respect every single part of that, because there's never a moment where I'm going to be like, boy, I hope he's okay. He seems so happy.
Right. I got you.
The anger is great. And it's so good. Like I said before, it's therapeutic. It's venting. It's everything you need. And for any artist out there, it means something to you. So let's talk about meaningful music in general. Vanna is the name of the artist on your hat, right?
Right.
You chose that as well for your daughter. That's how the impact that band had on you.
Absolutely.
The band on my hat, ironically, we did not plan this ahead of time for everybody.
I have them tattooed as well.
Oh, sick. Yeah, I was going to say, the band I saw, Seraphim, I didn't get this in person. I love them. I got to meet them in person, but I didn't get this in person. But I wanted to represent the band because they had that type of impact on me as well. So I wouldn't probably name my kid Seraphim, but but I want to know your experience with Vanna and like how that really changed to one of your like, oh, this is a really good band, to this is an impactful experience with music.
So to get into that, I have to go into the fact that growing up, I loved the band Attack Attack, which Caleb from Beartooth was in. Yes. And then he did the This Means War record with Attack Attack, then left to start Beartooth. And Beartooth went on their first U.S. headliner, same show I was talking about earlier. I had heard of Vanna from someone I was dating at the time and only heard like 2 songs. It was one old song called We Ate the Horse You Rode In On, and one new song, which was from their new record called Void. I had heard the opening track for that. So Beartooth was coming through this small little venue. I didn't really care about anyone else on the bill except for Siler. The only reason I even cared about Siler is because Caleb Shomo produced them. He used to produce them. Anything connected to that man, I am absolutely in love with. Yeah.
He produced Dark Days?
I don't think he produced Dark Days, but he produced their first EP and then their first record.
Okay. Because yeah,
Yeah.
that song is like the closest I've heard to Linkin Park out of all the
Yeah.
bands that have come out besides like what was the other band? By the way, continue.
Oh no, you're good. So anything connected to Caleb Shomo, I loved. He's so talented. He was only like let's see, I was probably 16 at that show. He was only like 21, 22 years old at this point. So he's always been an inspiration to me, being so young and so just unbelievably talented. So I was like, I have to go see Beartooth. Vanna also happened to be on that show. I'm like, okay, like I heard a couple songs from them, like they're fine. But just their energy was just so contagious. And like I'd never been to a show where like the vocalist gets in the crowd and like shoves the mic in your face or pulls you around and gives you a hug or is like, everybody get in here and we're all going to sing the words together. So it was like a co-headliner with Beartooth. So they were first. They had the same amount of set time, but they played first. And that was just so different for me. And so I picked up a CD or I think I bought the Void album from them and then downloaded some stuff later. And that just became kind of like, this is amazing. And Beartooth was my favorite band, and they kind of took that spot every time I saw them. Like they would give me the mic, they would remember me, they would talk to me, and that meant something to me. Just as a fan, I was like, it's so cool that you fucking remember me. You're acknowledging I'm singing every word you wrote back to you. And I mentioned when I'm angry, I write. Same thing. When I'm angry, I listen to hard ass music. So they have a lot of songs that were good for that. So I spent a lot of time listening to Vanna in my teenage years. But yeah, it's just super meaningful. Once again, going to live shows and experiencing things. So turning, they stole favorite band spot from Beartooth. It takes a lot to do that because Beartooth put on a hell of a show. But Vanna never really broke out of the mold. They never really played these huge ass venues. Go see him at Warped Tour. There's like 30 kids there. You see Beartooth at Warped Tour. There's like 500 kids there.
Yeah.
So it was always more intimate, and it was just better. I still love Beartooth to this day. I saw them play a 192 cap venue. I've seen them play a stadium, and it's still not the same energy as a Vanna concert.
Excellent. So it's the energy, it's the camaraderie, the way that they invited you to sing along, the fact that they remembered you, they're giving you a full personal experience. Right. And I could say my first rock band I ever saw was Thousand Foot Crutch. And
oh yeah, dude, I've seen them. They're a good live show too.
Yeah, they are. My first experience meeting an artist was Thousand Foot Crutch as well. It was that exact night. I was standing in the exact point where the line started. I didn't even know that's where I was standing. And they came out, and I was like, Trevor's in front of me. Yeah. And so I didn't know what to say. I couldn't get over the fact that I love vocalists. So I was like, crap, I didn't say anything to Joel or Steve. And I was like, I like in later time, I was like, crap, I should have said something. But for Trevor, I was like, dude, you like, your music means so much to me. And can you sign this? And he's like, yeah, no problem, man. And then I asked him to turn over the autograph sheet and sign the back. And I said, my favorite songs are In My Room and Already Home. And my fiance, or at the time, my girlfriend, couldn't make it. Can you write that song on the back? He's like, oh yeah, no problem, man. And then I was like, you're so cool, man. He's like, hey, thanks for coming out. And I was like, you thanked me? I'm nobody. I'm just another fan. And that kind of little experience, that little spark in my mind made me choose TFK, just like your experience, as my favorite band. I was going between Linkin Park, I was going between Red, and now I love Red the most. But like at that time, just that personal experience overall, it gave me a boost to say I respect them and they respected me back. It makes me feel mutually like loved. Like this is an engagement that anybody has with a really good musician, a really good artist in general. And it's beautiful. It's a beautiful connection that we can share as fans to bands. And that hat that you're wearing right now, you wear proudly, just like I wear the Seraphim one. They were super close by. I went to their show and I contacted their drummer. He was talking to me through their account. The way that they connected with me after texting me, he's like, hey man, just come out to the back, we'll meet you in the alley. And I was like, oh man, it's scary out there. I don't know if I could do this alone.
It's scary out there.
Walk out there. Yeah. And I'm like, where is he? And he comes down the stairs out of this secret door, and I was like, I didn't even know there was a door here. Yeah. And then he walks up, he's like, Dan? I was like, yeah. And he gives me a hug. And I was like, oh my gosh, dude, this makes me feel, it feels so good. It feels so nice to have an experience that's more than just I sang along with them from a
Right.
distance. Like they had me shout out all the lyrics from a distance. And oh, I saw them in the way back in this huge stadium. Oh wow, it was so cool. It's more of a personal connection that you
Right.
have that's like really, really important. And I love that. What was the first time that a fan did that for you? You have over 1,000 monthly streams on Spotify. Do you know how impressive that is, man?
Yeah, you know that a lot of that has to do with just constantly releasing. Before, so Sawtooth came out, I believe December 9th of last year, and then around that time I was releasing probably one song a month. So around that time I was recording both Rampage and Polarities, and they were both getting mixed. So both of those songs were mixed in house. Fuzzy Dysfunction does their own mixes, and so does Boy Wander. So they were doing their own mixes. So I'm like, okay, like I even announced like Oxygen Destroyer is going to be like the first song of the new year or whatever. And then both of those mixes finished. I'm like, okay, that's going to be the first solo song of the new year. But Rampage comes out on the 27th. So started there and then just releasing weekly 30 to 50 new listeners a day, just because it goes into the algorithm, and a lot of the plays I'm getting are just from algorithmic playlists. So if somebody listens to someone like me and just puts on, like, let's say Notions radio, if I'm on there, which I am because I have songs with Notions, then I get a listen from that, and it throws in like Oxygen Destroyer or Rampage or whatever else. So
Yes.
that it's very impressive, because before Rampage came out, I had dipped to like 375 monthly listeners, and now not even a month, well, no, a month later today, 1,000 plus. So
Yes.
that's awesome. So the first time I had that experience, I had gotten booked to play with Dropout Kings and Notions. It was Dropout Kings and Notions, the trap metal Menace tour. So I was messaging everyone trying to sell tickets. So Dropout Kings has a Facebook group, and I was posting in there. I was like posting memes like with the flyer and stuff like that, and just trying to draw attention. Like, if anyone is from Houston, like I have pre-sales, they're like $10 off from the door or whatever. So it got to the point Dropout Kings was posting like, hey, we're playing Houston, we're doing all this. Everyone that commented is like, oh, I can't wait to see you in Houston. I would message them on Facebook like, yo, man, I got pre-sale tickets. I'm pushing this show because I love Dropout Kings and I love Notions. I want to bring as many people in as possible. So I actually messaged this guy named Jacob Patterson, and I was like, hey, man, I saw you commented like you're gonna go to the Dropout Kings show in Houston. He was like, yeah, man, like, what's up? I was like, I didn't know if you already had tickets, whatever. Like, I have these for, I think it was $12 a piece. I was like, I actually already bought tickets, but like, I'll watch you at the show. I was like, okay, that's great. I didn't think anything more of it. Get to show day, and he's there in the front, like jamming with me. He comes up to me like after my set, is like, dude, I don't know if you remember, but like you messaged me trying to sell me tickets, like you fucking killed it. And like I had Kalen from Notions. He came on stage and did one of his songs with me. Every time I play a show, I cover a Notion song just because I love it so much. And there are some he has with other artists he never gets to play. Um, so I covered one of his songs, and he did his part for me. And then my buddy Jared from As the City Sleeps, which is a pop punk band, we actually, for my last song of the set, we covered In the End by Linkin Park. And
Oh,
so good. It was so fucking awesome. So right after the set, we got on stage, and he wanted pictures, and he was talking, and he introduced me to his girlfriend and stuff. So that was the first time that I had a fan interaction like that, and it was awesome.
that like I was like, okay, the starting of the story was great. He's making his point. I'm like, where is he gonna go with it? And you got all the way to that Facebook chat,
Yep.
and then meeting the guy in person at that show, the one that you were telling him about the tickets, and having him now a fan of you
Right.
after, mutually loving the same artist. You guys became friends slash band fans, and you wouldn't never expect that kind of stuff to happen. It's small world experiences.
Right. No, not at all, But he was in front, and like I played IOU at that show, and he knew all the words to that because he's also a fan of Linkin Park. So I'm like, oh yeah, this guy's fucking cool.
Hell
Didn't
yeah.
even know who it was till he came up after, but just awesome.
Absolutely, man. Speaking of being awesome and everything, I'm really loving this entire interview, dude. And before we go, I want to ask, what is your overall goal for your music career?
To quote Riff Raff, blow up and act like I don't know nobody. No, not that. Anytime I'm asked that, that's the answer I give. Overall goal with my music career, I want to make music my career. I don't want it to have to be a music career. I just want this to be my job. I love doing it. I feel much better when I'm writing and recording than doing anything else. So I would love to do that more often, work with bigger artists, tour consistently, and just have that be my main source of income, have streams and royalties and whatever come in and just kind of supplement anything else. So main goal is to blow up. In the meantime, just play as many shows as possible, get as much music out as possible, collaborate with as many artists as possible. And I said this to a friend the other day because I got the email. Spotify will email you to tell you like how your release is doing like a week later and a month later. And I just got the email for Rampage. And it's like, you got like 35 new followers and you got like 1,000+ monthly listeners. I was like, I messaged the guys from Fuzzy Dysfunction. I was like, this right here, I'm going to fucking flood the algorithm until it's nothing but me and all my fucking friends. That's
yes, absolutely excellent plan, because you deserve it, dude. Honestly,
thank you.
You're putting the hard work in. You have the passion for everything. You have the commitment. You're fully ready for this next step to say that music is your life, your job, your future. That's music is you. You are music. Like, you know, you identify as a musician and it means something. And a lot of people that are starting out right now, they're always challenging themselves to be the next big thing. And it's always a good start to just put out as much content as you can. Of course, don't rush it, but as much content as you can that you're pleased with, and just give it a shot. See what people are thinking. Like, honestly, I listened to your first song. It was not the worst thing I've ever heard in my life. But of course, like I said, you go to the next song, you get to see the progression immediately. You're like, whoa, whoa, whoa. And that's why, once again, for everybody listening right now, for all of you awesome people that made it to this point in the podcast, you're an awesome person. And thank you for watching. This man is a 5 out of 5. Album 5 out of 5. I guarantee when that drops, we're looking at perfection. And if he wants a reaction, you're damn right he's getting one. I'm making sure to put this guy on the front, because Plague Beast, Jacob, has his heart and soul in the right place.
Bro, thank you so much. I do not deserve your kind words. Thank you. It feels good to put forth the effort and have it recognized, because so often there's just such an oversaturation with stuff out there. Like, there's a lot of amazing artists out there. So to be at the point, you know, you just find me from Instagram, we develop this, you know, conversations like, you want to be on the podcast? I'm like, yeah. And, you know, now here we are. That's just awesome. So I really appreciate, you know, everything. It's like I said, it's been the greatest interview I think I've ever had. The way you research and just ask questions, it has meant a lot to me, and it's been an honor to be on your podcast.
Oh, man, I am honored to be with you right now, talking with you, gaining our mutual love for all of the great things. And you're going to get me into some awesome video games and anime. I guarantee it.
Absolutely. Plenty more video game and anime theme bangers coming.
Excellent. That's the best way to have it. For everybody else, once again, I hope all of you had an awesome time listening to this. All of you should go and support Plague Beast everywhere. I have all of his information in the description down below. You guys can go and check that out. Remember, all of you have an awesome day and stay safe out there. Peace.
Thank you for tuning in to the Media Man Dan podcast. If you enjoyed this episode, feel free to like and subscribe. Thanks for listening, have an awesome day, and stay safe out there. Peace.